Hello, my name is Lukas Oldenburg, and today we're going to take a look at the variable health report of the Datacroft Component Manager for Adobe Analytics in Google Sheets. If you don't have the Component Manager for Google Sheets yet, check out our Getting Started video in the links below. Otherwise, let's get started. So, for years and years, I've been working with Adobe Analytics, and something that I always wanted was a way to just check all the variables and all the events, like the metrics, every week or so, or every day or so, and just see where do we have changes, and then report those changes to me in an easily digestible manner. Setting up such reports myself was of course always possible, but it was tedious. There was always this Adobe Health dashboard, which was an Excel tool, or I think it even still exists, but it's kind of complicated to set up, and it runs forever, it blocks your Excel. If you want others to consume it, you have to share that Excel with them, etc. So I never got really into using that health dashboard a lot. Maybe it's also my fault. That was just my experience with it. So the Component Manager Variable Health Report is nothing that is comparable to the Adobe Analytics Health Dashboard. It's also not a competitor to it. It's more like a light version of it. It goes through all your metrics and dimensions and calculates trends, finally summarizes them. You can send it to Slack, and then you'd have this nice little Slack summary. Get that delivered every week or every day automatically. And now we're going to take a look at how this works. Let's look at the main areas first of all. So we have a report configuration area here on the left side. That's where you select what report suite it comes from, if you want dimensions or metrics, etc., etc. Then you have a schedule configuration area on the bottom. That's where you schedule when you want to start that variable health report. On the right side, you'll see whether a schedule is active. Here on the top right, as always in the Component Manager, you have the status bar that shows you the progress while you're running the report. And here is the report summary. It shows like the top 10 risers and the top 10 fallers. We're going to get into detail about that. And then at the bottom, you have a report per variable with the top values and the way they have changed in the last whatever days you set up here. So let's create a health report. For that, we go to Extensions, AA Component Manager, and then Variable Health Report, Create New Health Report. We'll give it a name. For example, we'll call this one Metrics. I'll call it Metrics 2 because I already have one for metrics. And then the Component Manager creates a tab called Health underscore, and then whatever you chose to be the name. So it's going to be Health underscore Metrics 2, and inserts it to the left of the tab that you're currently viewing. Let's start with the report configuration. First, we have to select a report suite, and the report suites are based on the list of report suites of the report suites tab. If you don't see anything here to select from, you first have to run Extensions, a Component Manager, Report Suites, refresh Report Suites, and that will refresh this tab and give you report suites to choose from in this drop-down menu. Next up is variable type. You can choose metrics or dimensions. Metrics goes through all success events and all instances of eVars. Dimensions goes through all eVars and props, and if you want to, also all classifications. So we'll keep it with metrics so far. Then period length. And by the way, you can also hover over these little dark icons here. They give you info on each of these fields. So 7 means I want the report to run for the last 7 days and compare it to the 7 days before that. So this would compare the last 7 full days with 8 to 14 days and calculate trends based on that. So we can change that to, for example, 14 days. The maximum is 28 days. Then filter by segment IDs. And here I can add one or more segment IDs, all commas separated, that should be applied to all the queries. And you can see all your segments, of course, in the full component import tab, for example, or in the component usage tab, or in the component editor tab. There's multiple places where you can look for segments. And let's see here, I have filtered this tab for component type segment. for whatever reason, we want only Chrome browsers. So let's go back to my health report and then a comma. Let's take another segment. Let's take campaign traffic, only campaign traffic and Chrome browsers. So we'll just add those two, and this will filter everything by these two segments. Then classifications, yes, no, doesn't have a lot of sense in the metrics variety of the health report, so we can leave that blank because metrics don't have classifications. But if you choose dimensions, you can check this, and then it will also evaluate all classifications. Then we have this list here of variables to exclude entirely, and there's some stuff pre-filled. You can delete that and put anything in there that you find is relevant. Things like user IDs or timestamps are usually not useful for a trend summary. If you run the report once, you'll see all the eVars that produce stuff or props that produce stuff that is not really relevant, and then you can list them out here in this fashion. So you can write either eVar 17, eVar 18, prop 30, or you can write variables eVar 78, etc. Again, the names of your eVars and props you can get from the full component tab, full component import, and then filter by dimensions. That's where you also get all the classifications. But let's take eVar 125 travel hotel texts. That would be a case for a classification dimension, and then you can just add that here to the rest, to the right of it. Of course, we're in a metrics report, so eVars and props make little sense here. So here you would rather have something like event 77, event 22, or eVar 77 instances to not show instances of eVar 77. So vars to exclude entirely means we don't want to look at these variables. This can help removing stuff that's just unnecessary, just to speed up the report, and to make the summary include stuff that is actually relevant for you, because this summary is what you can also send to Slack, and in Slack, in that one Slack message, you of course don't want changes to timestamps or whatever being reported as crazy trends. Then variables to exclude from summary means those variables should be only excluded from the summary text here or the Slack, but not in the full list below. So I want to see some trends here in the list below, but I don't want that variable to go into the summary results. We'll leave that blank for now and run the report for now. Let's go to AA Component Manager, Variable Health Report, and then Run Health Report. Confirm that. Now we have to wait a little bit. The metrics report usually is very fast, takes usually less than a minute, because Adobe's API is actually very good if you want to query a lot of metrics. It allows you to query 250 metrics in one run. That's crazy. But it takes a while to query dimensions, because for dimensions we'll query the top 25 values per dimension, of course. And if you have a lot of dimensions and a lot of classifications, that's a separate request for all these dimensions, and that of course takes a little bit longer. And here we are already. We see the result of the run, and I also got a Slack notification, and then I have now report summary. So this is what I see in Slack, and this is also what I'm seeing here in the result summary area in the Google Sheet. So let's look at these results a little bit. Here you see all the metrics listed out. You can of course also add a filter, and then the filter for those, if you like to. For example, we don't want eVar instances, we just want events for now, like normal success events. And then you just see event per event listed out, the values of 1 to 14 days ago, because I set 14 days as my period length, and that's then compared to 15 to 28 days ago, so the 14 days before that, and then I see the change in percentages. Of course, this is now an agency account with some fake data from Adobe, but for example, if that was real data, we would probably be concerned that our offline revenue has gone down by 33% in the last 14 days. That would be quite dramatic. Finally, let's look at the report summary. Again, this is the same as what I've just received in Slack. So let's look at the Slack summary. It summarizes the top 10 risers and the top 10 fallers. So the top 10 values that have risen by at least 10% or have fallen by at least 10%. If you want other thresholds, you can tell Datacroft or me to change those for your account, and then you can get them if they have at least 5% or if they have at least 25% or whatever you like it to be. And here we see there's just one metric that has risen by over 10%. That's just the eVars revenue, whatever that is. And then we have quite a lot of fallers. There's a lot of stuff going down in the last 14 days, nicely summarized. There's another threshold here, so the value has to have at least 100 occurrences, otherwise it will not show up. It's just to avoid gigantic ups and downs, just because some value like went from 1 to 5 and then it's a 500% increase. Now, no, this is not rocket science. It's actually pretty primitive, but it's really useful in my day-to-day work with Adobe Analytics accounts. Let's look at a dimensions report, and this one I have already run and set up. You see the setup here, it's just dimensions and the rest stays the same. I've posted some eVars to exclude from the summary entirely. I could also add props here. And again, I can write them with the variables / prefix, so variables / eVar9 or just eVar9. You can see there are the top 25 values per eVar. So those are the top 25 values for eVar1, then the top 25 values for eVar2, and so on and so on. And on the right side, you see the occurrences trend. So it went from 362,000 to 461,000, and that's a change the other way around, from 461 to 362, and that's a change by minus 21%. And then again, it summarizes the top 10 risers and top 10 fallers in this little report summary. But you can also get it to Slack as we've just seen earlier. So this is how the dimension report summary looks in Slack. And this is much nicer to read, of course. Yeah, get that schedule every Monday morning and see some important trends. Oh, email is up by 66%. What's going on there? So how do we schedule it? Very easy. You select daily or weekly. Let's say we want it weekly on Monday at 6 a.m. or 18, that's 6 p.m., whatever you like. And then I go to extensions, a component manager, variable health report, activate schedule. Then I need to wait a couple of seconds and check the status bar, and it says successfully scheduled. If I now want to deactivate the schedule again, just a component manager, variable health report, deactivate schedule, and it should be deactivated within a couple of seconds again. Successfully deleted the schedule, and that's it. So finally, how do you get the message to Slack? Very easy. You just set up a Slack integration for a webhook. The link to that is in the description. That takes like 1 to 2 minutes. It's really easy. And then you get a webhook URL, and then you go to the config tab. And here you add a row, just like that. You just add a row to the first empty row here, and on the other settings code, so G to I. Then you write Slack _ URL, then Slack URL or whatever you like here. And that's your URL that you get from Slack. And when you have that, every health report summary will get sent to that Slack URL as well. And that makes it a lot easier than having to wait until the report is ready, or even if you schedule it, you might not go to the component manager that very day to pick up the report summary. So I really recommend using that Slack integration. For anything else, feel free to contact us. I hope this feature is as useful for you as it is for me, and have a great day.